This is Locked On Bets, the daily betting show that means business from the Locked On Podcast Network. Hosted by Lee Sterling and Kevin Rogers, they're dropping fearless picks with an inside edge to put money in your pocket. If there's action, they've got the lock. This is where smart bets start. It's Locked On Bets.
Welcome to Locked On Bets here on this Thursday, July 17th. Kevin Rogers and Lee Sterling of Paramount Sports with you. And unfortunately, no baseball, no WNBA tonight, but that's fine because after this, we're rolling ahead starting Friday with baseball back. Big UFC card coming up this weekend in New Orleans. And the football is all ahead. So we're really looking forward to that. We also, again, we appreciate you making Locked On Bet your first listen of the day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. So let's begin with the picks.
Oh boy. Last one out, turn off the lights. This one's a blowout.
And for the second straight day, we're going to have UFC 318 picks from New Orleans. And with that, I hand it off to Lee Sterling.
Yep. So, Ryan, have you seen any summer blockbuster movies, Kevin, this summer yet?
No.
You didn't see Superman yet?
No, I don't watch any of those, no.
I didn't think it was any good, but that's a story for another day. I will tell people that is way overrated. If someone likes that movie, maybe we didn't watch the same movie, but Ryan Superman Spann. He is 33 years old, 6'5", right around 250. He's laying on the money line 210 and fighting Lucas the Bull Bresky. So Bresky is 33. And how about this record? Usually see great records because they come up through the ranks, with the LFA and different fight promotions. And they're, 13-2, but he is just 9-6-1 and 1-5 in the UFC. Now, he's a little bit shorter, 6'4", about 15 pounds lighter, goes about 234, 235. Think he's going to have some problems here with Spann. Why do I say that? Well, he was kind of brought in when they needed UFC heavyweights. There's been a couple other divisions that 3-4 years ago, they needed guys like in the flyweights and the heavyweights, and they brought in some questionable guys, and Bresky's one of those guys. He got called up, and it's one of the world's biggest mysteries as far as I'm concerned, why he hasn't been let go. 1-5, and fighting a guy, Ryan Spann, did lose his last fight to Waldo Cortez Acosta, but he did have some good moments in that fight, and there was talk that, Cortez Acosta is not great, but Cortez Acosta went on from that fight to end up beating Sergey Spivak. So turns out that loss is not that bad. Spann is 3-4 the last 7 in the UFC. He's been right in that 10 to 15 range as far as his ranking, but almost all of his losses have been to quality top 10 fighters. So I think that Spann is going to dominate Bresky here. Bresky is, like I said, 33, but he looks 38, 40 years old. His chin isn't great. Just can't fight the better fighters and inflict enough damage to get whether it's a decision or to get a stoppage. So I think Superman Spann here is going to dominate him. I'm going to lay the money line, -210 with Superman. I think he's going to be better, much better version than the movie that you're seeing that they're claiming is a blockbuster. Superman money line -210 blowout special.
I've not been to the theater in a long time, so that's not. The summer blockbusters have just passed me by over the years.
I could have sworn. Weren't you a Marvel guy? No.
No. Who'd you hear that from? No.
I don't know. Yeah,
that's
I know you're a movie
false.
guy. I know you're
movie guy. Movie guy.
Yeah.
Yes. Marvel and comics. No, I've never willingly gone to see any of those movies.
Save your time. So it was getting great ratings, like in the 80 to 90% range. People had liked it if you read the different reviews and the percentages and stuff. But I'm one of these old school guys. He used to change Superman, remember, in the phone booth. Now he's not changing in a phone booth. Okay, he looks a little bit like the original Superman. Okay, I get that. But he seems like he has no chemistry with Lois Lane here in this one. And he's getting beat up. I don't even like, there's no storyline. It just gets ridiculous. And I've liked some of the last Supermans and some of the Marvels. I'm looking to be entertained in the summer. My wife said to me, I said to her today and yesterday, I said, well, why don't we go out for dinner? And she's like, what's going on? I'm like, what do you mean? She goes, no sports on? I'm like, you got me. Yeah. So you got to be strategic in the movies you pick out. I didn't make her go to Superman, went with a friend. I go more with the rom-coms with her. And then, this is a perfect time. I try to get in as many dinners with her alone and going out with friends, because once football season hits, I'm working 85, 90 hours a week. So good night last night and tonight to go out for dinner.
Yeah, they might as well take advantage of it now before things get ramped up. Less than 2 weeks away from the NFL, actually 2 weeks away from the first preseason game in the NFL, and then the NFL preseason, and then the college football will begin coming up in August. So a lot to get to. And speaking of, we will take a look at Ole Miss, the Rebels with Lane Kiffin, see how they will do this year. The Bengals, we'll take a look at them as well. But coming up, we are going to go to the Diamond with the second half coming up. Will the Philadelphia Phillies stay atop the National League East? Will they eclipse their win total? That's all straight ahead right here on Locked On Bets. Tell you now about Game Time. And even though there's no games in action tonight, there's still plenty of games that you can look forward to. If you ever decide at the last minute to head to a ball game with friends or family, maybe it's game day and you suddenly realize you want to be in the stands. That's exactly where Game Time comes in. It's the easiest way to grab last-minute tickets without the stress. With the money you can save on tickets, you can splurge on food, drinks, merch, or even invite a bigger group to come with you. And Game Time makes it possible. Also, Game Time makes buying tickets fast and simple. Prices on the app actually drop the closer you get to first pitch. And they've got incredible last-minute deals, clear seat views, and the lowest price guarantee that takes the worry out of buying. And with Game Time being the official ticketing partner of Locked On MLB, there's plenty of big series coming up this weekend in Major League Baseball at Fenway, the Red Sox and the Cubs. In the National League out in Los Angeles, the Dodgers and Brewers, big matchup there. Even in Miami, the Royals and the Marlins, Bobby Witt Jr. heading down to South Florida. So you have all of these choices no matter where you're at in the country. If you're close, you can get to the game. You can go with Game Time, and they will hook you up. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. As we continue here on Locked On Bets, Kevin Rogers and Lee Sterling of Paramount Sports. So now we take a look at the Diamond. The Major League Baseball will begin coming up on Friday and going through the stretch run. And with the National League, will the Philadelphia Phillies be that team to go over their win total? Will they do it? Let's see. We're going to do a hidden gem here, Lee, and mix it up a little bit.
To find a diamond in the rough, you need to dig a little deeper for those hidden gems.
And the Philadelphia Phillies, they're atop the National League East by half game over the New York Mets heading into Friday's action. And we'll see if they can keep up the solid pitching. Zach Wheeler atop the staff and what Ranger Suarez has done. And, of course, the lineup, Kyle Schwarber, the All-Star Game MVP for all this great work he put in on Tuesday. And let's talk about the Phillies now, Lee, and where do you see them finishing?
Yeah, so they're sitting right now for them to get over the win total of 93.5 with 66 games left. They've got 55 wins. They're going to need to go 39-27. I think it's doable. I think it's, I wouldn't say easy, but unless they get a cumulative effect as far as injuries are concerned, I wouldn't say a lock, but they look pretty darn good. look at their core as far as the order. Turner, Castellanos, Schwarber, Bone, Harper, Riamolto. Harper's healthy again. And once he came back, I think he solidified this order. So I think they might have, outside of the Dodgers, or right there, the best everyday order. And then they've got starters. You mentioned Wheeler and Sanchez. Luzardo, guy they got from the Marlins. Suarez, they're 8-5 and 7-3. And then their fifth starter, it's either Walker or Nola who is injured, but they're 3-5 and 1-7. I think there's upside with these two guys. So just need to go 39 and 27 the rest of the way. And I think a bunch of other teams are going to be sellers outside of the Mets in their division. So Braves will start selling off. The Marlins, they're starting to show who the Marlins are. Typical second half, bottom feeding. You fatten up on games against them. So I'm going to go with the over 93.5 wins here for Philadelphia. They'll go at least 39 and 27 or 40 and 26. That's going to be my hidden gem.
And it's funny, Lee, how right out of the gate, the Phillies have this American League boosted schedule with who they play out of the gate. Listen to this. Angels and Red Sox at home, Yankees and White Sox on the road, Tigers and Orioles at home, and then at Texas. They don't play their next National League opponent until August 11th at Cincinnati. So they're getting a lot of interleague play coming up. Angels, they should take care of. The Red Sox were hot going to the All-Star break, but we'll see if they keep that up. Going to play the Yankees on the road will be entertaining. At Chicago against the White Sox, they should take care of business. Detroit will be a good series at home. But then Baltimore has underachieved this year. Texas has been up and down at times. So you would think the Phillies over the next few weeks should be able to take care of business against these American League teams.
And a lot of these pitchers on their staff, if you've not seen them before, they are nasty. I mean, they're really good. So that's a staff that's loaded. Everyone's talking the Dodgers, but if the Phillies get hot, they're a team that I think even the Dodgers don't want to face in the NL Championship.
And look, there's about 5 or 6 teams that could win the National League. I don't think it's just the Dodgers automatically that will come out of this thing. You see how well the Mets have played, what the Phillies have done, the Cubs and Brewers battling out in the National League Central, San Diego still hanging around in the West if they can get their pitching straight, and, of course, the Dodgers. But it should be interesting to see. I don't know if we're going to get Dodgers-Yankees again in the World Series, but, again, you never know who's going to come out of the National League. Coming up, we will have a loaded final segment as we'll look at college football and the NFL. We'll preview Ole Miss in the SEC and also the Bengals in the NFL. All of that is coming up right here on Locked On Bets. Locked On Bets continues here. Kevin Rogers and Lee Sterling of Paramount Sports. And with that, the football is still straight ahead, even though there's no games in baseball or WNBA tonight. But we still have a lot to preview. So let's go to the SEC with the Ole Miss Rebels.
Open it, open it, open it! Lee has the key to the lock of the day.
Kiffin, he's definitely done a fantastic job since leaving FAU to go to Ole Miss. And 10-3 last year for the Rebels. Jackson Dart gets drafted by the Giants. And the last few years now, 21-5 for Ole Miss. So he's done a pretty good job. Obviously, it's tough in the SEC. Remember, Lane Kiffin for a minute was rumored to go to Alabama. And I think staying at Ole Miss was the right move for him, not trying to follow Nick Saban. But, Lee, what do you like here? New quarterback for Ole Miss and, again, in a tough SEC.
I like Lane Kiffin. I think he's a good coach. Entertaining also. And I think everyone needs, some lighter moments. And he's a good interview, fun to watch on the sidelines. When things are going well, likes to pour it on. And when things aren't going so well, you see him, tossing that visor and the look on his face. And he's one of those guys, when he's down in a big game, he will go for it. I mean, he'll sometimes even try a couple fakes in a row. So he is exciting, but I don't think he's great. And I don't think he's a coach you want to back in big games. Now, they're as far as their offense, they're one of these teams that decided to not go in the transfer portal. They decided to try to, get some of these younger quarterbacks, work with them, tutor them, and he's supposedly a quarterback guru. They're going to go with Austin Simmons to back up from last year in limited action, 19 for 32, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. But I'm not a fan of the guy. I don't think he's ever going to be a top-tier quarterback, maybe the year after, but I don't think this year. I think that they're going to lose something going from Jackson Dart to Austin Simmons a lot. They have no true number one wide receiver. Their top wide receivers hurt most of last year and haven't developed anyone. They didn't get anyone in the transfer portal that's going to be a game breaker. College football is about finding guys on offense, running backs or receivers, who can run, break a tackle, or as a receiver, get that separation, and in 1 or 2 plays, you can go down the field. And I don't see that number one wide receiver on their roster. They have no lead running back. Didn't have him last year. They don't have him again this year, in my opinion. They have a bunch of number 2 running backs. They have a bunch of number 2 and 3 wide receivers. So that's a problem. And even their offensive line, they lost 4 or 5 starters from last year. And did they go to the transfer portal a whole lot? No. They're expecting maybe an Arkansas transfer who didn't play much to step in there. They're expecting a Charlotte. We're not talking about, basketball. We're talking about Charlotte. That college has not produced too many great linemen. They're expecting a transfer there with 2 career starts to step in and start. So I just don't think this offensive line is going to be up to SEC standards. The offense is going to be, I think, way down. The defense, they lost 11 of 13 tacklers from last year that led the team. So I think they're recruiting well, but the schedule also isn't real easy. They got to play at Georgia, at Oklahoma. That could be 2 losses. They got to also play LSU, South Carolina, and Florida. They lose 2 out of 3 there. They're sitting at 4 losses or under 8 or less there. And then week 2 and week 3, they play Kentucky and Arkansas. These are trap games here. If they lose either of those games here in week 2 or 3, I think they're in trouble. I'm going to go under the 8.5 wins here for the Ole Miss Rebels. Level 1 lock.
When you look back at Ole Miss last year, Lee, and you see the 10 wins, they beat Georgia at home. That was a really good win. But past that, the other wins, Furman, Middle Tennessee, Wake Forest, Georgia Southern, nothing to get excited about. At South Carolina was a pretty dominating performance. They lost at home to Kentucky as 15-point favorites.
Wait, stop right there, Kevin. That was embarrassing. They weren't just beaten 20-17. They were a huge favorite in that game. I think they were something like over 2 touchdowns.
15.
Anywhere from 14.5, 15.5 points. They were dominated. If you see the final score 20-17, dominated on the line of scrimmage. And I think that was coaching. They came out with no fire. So they scored. I remember that game, the first touchdown, and then did nothing the rest of the game. I think they scored late just to make it 20-17. So I think that was Lane Kiffin's fault there.
Yeah, Oklahoma, they beat as heavy favorites by 12, and Oklahoma was down last year. They beat Arkansas. They beat Mississippi State. So past the Georgia win, there was really nothing that convincing.
Yeah. But once they beat Georgia, they were getting so much acclaim. Lane Kiffin was being interviewed all over the place. They had a bye week, and what did they do when they went to Florida?
They lost.
Laid an egg. Yep.
Yeah, 2 losses as double-digit favorites last year to Florida and Kentucky. So that's not good. And now, again, like you said, you're going with an unproven quarterback coming up this year. So we'll see how that turns out for the Rebels. So now we transition to our second lock to the NFL.
Open it, open it, open it! Lee has the key to the lock of the day.
Look now, Lee, at the Cincinnati Bengals, and their win total is 9.5. And I was a little convinced, or at least swayed, I guess you can say. I did finish the Netflix series Quarterback, and it highlights 3 quarterbacks: Kirk Cousins of the Falcons, Jared Goff of the Lions and Joe Burrow of the Bengals. And Joe Burrow, when he is healthy, is a top 3 or 4 quarterback in the NFL. And the numbers he put up last year were exceptional. Just their defense let them down a lot. And the problem with the Bengals is they're slow starters. Every year they always go 0-2. They always lose week 1 for some reason. They just don't get off to a good start. But they did finish strong last year, winning 5 in a row, and they needed a ton of things to happen to get in the playoffs. And obviously they fell short because you needed 3 teams to lose, you need to win, you need all these things, and it didn't work out. But they still played well at the end of the season. They still have elite receivers. And even though the defense, I don't know how much it's going to be improved, and you're in a division with Baltimore, which doesn't make life easy, but Cleveland's not going to be good. Pittsburgh, you have Aaron Rodgers, you know what he has left in the tank. But I think the Bengals go over their win total this year, 9.5. They finished 9-8 last year and were bad. Like, think about that, Lee, that they still were 4-8, won their final 5, and this year it's at 9.5. The games they lost, they got squeezed by the Chiefs in week 2. They got squeezed twice by the Ravens. They put up that bad effort against New England in week 1. That was the survivor easy pick for the Bengals, and they lost that game outright. But they ended up winning that game at Dallas on Monday night late in the season on that Jamar Chase touchdown down the sidelines. They had some good wins down the stretch, beating Denver at home. I just think this year, just get off to a better start, and they can go over and pick up at least 10 wins.
I agree. I've only made it through 2 of the episodes, and I enjoy the quarterbacks they picked for quarterback this year. What a perfect time to put these in. And then they've got the Hard Knocks. That's coming up in a couple of weeks. I enjoy those also. Whenever I see someone, talking about the quarterbacks of the teams that are in quarterback or on Hard Knocks, I'm like, oh, you watch, the episode or you're watching the series. They're like, yeah. So it does sway you a little bit, but I think Al Golden, underrated, not a good head coach, didn't do a good job at Miami, but there's certain guys that are better coordinators than they are head coaches. Did a great job in Notre Dame last year. I mean, how they pulled that team back together after losing to a MAC school to make it to the championship game and almost pull off a win there against a couple teams that had a lot more talent than them. So I think he's got good schemes, and I think he's perfectly positioned to give them a boost as far as their defense is concerned. And like I said, can they keep going 0-2 and 0-3 to start the season? I don't think so. So I like the over win total there. And I think you probably also like most of these quarterbacks' wives. So if you're within a half a game, that certainly sways you a little bit, and also me too, Kevin.
Yeah, and look, with the Bengals, again, they lost that Washington game on the Monday night last year. They were winning early. Like, they just had a lot of games that they were right there, and they have enough talent where I think they can get over the hump now. As far as
KC, Kevin, how about that game? The
game
phantom interference. Kansas City was getting every break. The first half of the season on calls, and I thought that was one of them. That's like in basketball, the last 2 minutes of the game calling a phantom foul. So that certainly gave Kansas City that win. So Joe Burrow is a fun guy to watch, great talent, and I think they can win 10 games.
Quick just transition on their rivals there in the AFC North. Who do you think ends up being the quarterback this year with the Browns?
I think they're going to start with one of the veterans, and it wouldn't shock me if, like, Dylan Gabriel ends up second half quarterback. So your guess is as good as mine. I mean, the Browns are an absolute mess. I mean, when you get drafted by the Browns or traded to the Browns, time's not going to be long.
Yeah, and this division, again, will come down to the Ravens and the Bengals at the top, as long as we always say everyone stays healthy. But, yeah, those 2 games last year, Cincinnati blew in overtime to Baltimore, and then they went for the second time against the Ravens and didn't get it. So they were that close to beating the Ravens, and we'll see how it turns out this year. Coming up tomorrow, we will have the baseball back, which is good. So we'll have baseball picks and looking ahead into the weekend. But before we exit here on this Thursday, Lee, what's going on with Paramount Sports?
2 weeks away from football. So you want to hop on board, get our phone service. We've won 30 seasons out of the 31 years in business. We're poised for another big year. And I think there's going to be some good spots in preseason. Hey, I know it's not as exciting as a regular season or college football, but you start some of these preseasons 8-3, 9-4. got a nice bankroll. You don't have the pressure going into week one. You can have a week where you go 5-5, 5-6, and, still be in the plus. So not going to win every week, but we've usually done real well in preseason. So you want to hop on board from the beginning. Don't call us, when you get to the Labor Day, call us in early September, say, I'm ready to go. How have you done? Well, we might be up 10 or 15 units at that point. So ParamountSports.com, $19.97 gives you every single game from the first preseason game through the Super Bowl. UFC pay-per-view this Saturday night. We won 7 of the last 8 cards. We rate our selections from 10 to 50 units in every sport. We have a very rare, I think we've only had this happen twice ever, 2 40 to 50 unit max wager releases among our 7 selections. And you're going to get 7 selections, $57. We're 18-7 on our 40 to 50 unit max wager selections, the last 25 big releases, and also baseball. You get 10 days, $50 on our baseball selections, 10 days, $50 on our baseball player props. You want to combine both together, $77 for 10 days of action. You're going to get 6 to 7 selections per day, just one place, ParamountSports.com, or call 800-400-9741. And do me and Kevin a favor, if you're enjoying watching us on YouTube or listening to us on Apple, Spotify, or any other of the different options available where you can hear us, please like and subscribe. You're doing us a favor. We appreciate it. And leave a comment if you like what we're doing. So we do appreciate that also. So we're working hard to try to win for you, real hard. Sometimes we're texting each other 11:30, 12 o'clock at night, back and forth for something that we see in a game or a stat that we think can help you. So we're doing our best to help you out, build the bankroll. If you can help us out through YouTube, Spotify, Apple, or any other way, please like and subscribe and leave a comment. We appreciate it.
And also you can find us on X at Rogers Picks and at Paramount Sports. And we'll be back with you coming up on Friday as we will wrap up the week. And again, you are listening to Locked On Bets right here on the Locked On Podcast Network.